Hi everyone, meteorologist Joe Chaffee on this Sunday, the last day of the month of April. I went out fishing this morning and caught myself a little rainbow trout and came home happy, so life is good. In the meantime, we're going to take a look at what's going on weather-wise. Very active in the middle part of the United States. You can see it here. We're going to start it off with blizzard warnings. You don't see that too often at the end of April, particularly in an area where they hardly got any snow all winter long, up through northwestern Kansas, southwestern Nebraska, 3 counties there, 4 counties in eastern Colorado, a larger area of winter storm warnings up from northwest Texas northward and northeastward into central Nebraska. And then you have an extension of winter weather advisories from North Texas all the way up into southern Minnesota. In the meantime, to the east of this very large, powerful upper air storm and surface storm that goes with it, we're seeing quite a bit of severe weather going on from southeastern Louisiana on up in through Mississippi, where we have tornado watches up, flood watches that go all the way up through the Great Lakes into southwestern Michigan, flash flood warnings for southern Missouri, eastern Arkansas, western Tennessee, extending on into southern Illinois, and then a larger area of general flood advisories and flood warnings that have already gone out. So pretty busy Sunday here. And again, to see all that, this blizzard warning up for the last part of April. Here's our current tornado watch that's up around for midday in southeastern Louisiana and through much of the state of Mississippi. And when we look at the overall risk of severe weather today, it's pretty large. You've got marginal risk extending into western Pennsylvania, eastern Ohio, most of Kentucky into Tennessee, and then a large area of slight risk that runs to the southern Great Lakes, all through the western half of the Ohio Valley and Tennessee Valley, on down through the central Gulf Coast. And it's in particular where this tornado watch is up at the moment, where we've got this squall line of very heavy thunderstorms that's moving on through. And you can see it here on the radar. That's a fairly impressive line here that extends from southern Mississippi down into southeastern Louisiana, although it looks like it may have weakened just a little bit in the last hour or so. There's the comma-shaped structure on the radar and the rotation going counterclockwise. So these echoes seem to be moving more north to south rather than south to north. So that tells us that there's an upper air circulation here. This is all snow going back up through northwestern Kansas and through that section of Colorado where we had the blizzard warnings. And then we have some snow down into northern Texas, where we have some winter storm warnings up there. And you've got rain at the moment extending on northward up into southern Minnesota with regards to this storm system. And they'll see some snow get involved here as this upper low lifts northeastward. Meanwhile, here in the east and over my neck of the woods, we've taken a turn to the east in terms of the wind, and that has cooled temperatures down into the upper 50s and low 60s, and that's probably where we're going to stay here all day long. And the cool down in the east wind extends all the way down through southern New Jersey and into Maryland and Delaware, though temperatures there are in the upper 60s and low 70s. So the really cool air is further northeast, and you've got low 50s across northeastern Pennsylvania, and then you see it rises into the 60s and upper 60s across southeastern and south central Pennsylvania, while it's 50s in the Hudson Valley, and it's mostly 50s to a few low 60s in parts of Connecticut. Now, the temperatures are going to be impacted by how much cloud cover there is. In some places, there's quite a bit of it. In other places, there are a lot of thin spots, and where you see that, those temperatures will be higher, especially away from the coast. And here's the look on the satellite. Very impressive. There's that upper air storm just spinning away, beginning to move toward the north-northeast. And there's that outbreak of severe weather that's occurring from the central Gulf coast all the way on up northward with heavy rains up on in Missouri and through Illinois and Indiana, as we saw on the radar. Now, let's take a look at where models are going with all this, because as we move into the afternoon, that snow continues for a little while longer back through Kansas and into southern Nebraska, but shortly after that, it ends, and you can see there's a little bit of snow that starts to take shape up in the areas to the northeast where there's winter weather advisories up, and that low center works its way up into western Wisconsin. Here's the trailing cold front. So now we're into Monday afternoon. What's going to happen is the backdoor cold front that came through in the east is going to go back the other way as a warm front, and we're going to have a south-southwest flow here tomorrow. So if you've got south-facing shorelines and along the immediate New Jersey coast, it's probably not going to get all that warm tomorrow, maybe through the 60s, but inland it'll probably make it up into the 70s until this front swings through with some showers and thunderstorms, which are probably going to happen after sunset, sometime between, say, 7 p.m. and 2 a.m. or so. We'll get into some showers and storms, and then they should be out of here, and then drier air takes over, and we'll start to focus our attention on the next weather system that will be approaching. So I'll give you, here's the closer view, and we'll just back it up, and you can see here. So here's the backdoor front right through here this afternoon, right through northern Virginia, across the Delmarva Peninsula and out. And then you have this mess with the severe weather that's going on in the warm sector right in there. And that's where our enhanced risk is today. Gradually, that warm front is going to push northward, so the area of risk will extend northward up toward the southern area of the Great Lakes as that low moves northeast. And there you have it going through here with the cold front here along the east coast. I don't think there'll be severe weather with this front, but there certainly could be some downpours and a couple of thunderstorms running around, and I'm not sure that everybody's going to participate in them. Now here comes the next storm system from the southern plains on Wednesday morning, forming in north central Texas, and there'll be another outbreak of severe weather here Wednesday night across East Texas, northern Louisiana, and southern Arkansas. That's going to produce some heavy rains. So the flooding that is going on there now is going to get another round of rainfall on top of it for the middle part of this week. So there's going to be some serious flooding when you add all these systems up together. Now that low runs up on Thursday morning, is in almost it's near Nashville. And there's severe weather indicated for southeastern Louisiana and through the central Gulf. That low is going to kind of meander its way northeastward, and we'll have rain here in the northeast during the afternoon on Thursday into Thursday evening. It'll be spreading in. And what looks like is happening is that part of the energy is going to run out ahead, part of it's going to get left behind. And you can see there's a surface low that runs into West Virginia by Friday night. So this is a pretty long duration rain event, if you want to believe it. It has some very heavy rains coming through here during the day on Friday. And then that rain continues into Saturday because of this this low and the upper air low, which is right down through here in through northern Georgia, western South Carolina. So that creates some more rain and showers as we go through the weekend. In fact, it wants to energize another little surface low there just southeast of New Jersey by Sunday morning. I don't know how real that is. And then it pulls away. So this is the consequence of being in the blocking pattern that we've been talking about, is the fact that we could get into a long duration precipitation event, a long duration rain event. Maybe it doesn't rain straight through, but when it doesn't, it's just going to be very gloomy and very dreary. After that goes by, we have a system coming down from the north for next week, and through the middle of next week, there's another weather system that's going to be approaching the east coast from the Great Lakes. It looks like another upper air system that's diving down into the lakes at this point. So the pattern certainly reflects what's going on with the blocking. Let's look at the upper air before we go look at what's going to be happening in the western part of the United States, because I think with all this going on, the situation in the west will get a bit more quiet than it has been. And indeed, again, watch what goes on. Here we are today with this ridge in the east. There's that deep upper air storm in the Central Plains lifting up toward the western Great Lakes. Now we begin to see the developing upper high that the models have been showing for many days now over through Greenland. And there's no real change in this. The block is very strong, And there it is, right up all through here, all up through Greenland and in the North Atlantic. So that, again, the important thing about these blocking highs that form up there is that they displace the jet stream much further south of normal. And in fact, here's that system in the southern plains. One of the differences with the model runs over the last 12 hours or so is that, yeah, there's not much phasing going on, but it really does show a very energetic southern stream system here. Even though the two streams kind of stay separate, that southern energy is very, very powerful. Here's that block. And you can see how, your upper air winds are actually coming from the east over just north of Labrador. Okay, so your jet stream is way south, runs across the Pacific into western Canada, then drives across southern Canada into the northeast, and you've got this active southern part of the jet that's doing its job in bringing these weather systems along one after another. So when we look at that upper air, it does eventually wind up trying to phase it here going into next weekend, and that's probably why it develops that second low off the New Jersey coast next Saturday. Now, again, whether that's real or not remains to be seen. And over the long term, as we go out to day 9 and 10, this is all blocked up here. So there's your jet. You see how far south it is of normal because of that upper high? Otherwise, winds will be blowing from Canada from west to east. The colder air would be to the north, but that big upper high is displacing a strong jet stream way to the south, and it continues right through days 12, 13. Here's another big upper air storm that it forms off the east coast. Again, we don't know if it's real or not, or if it comes out exactly this way. It most likely will not, but the pattern itself just speaks of the activity. Now, as we get toward the end of the period, the blocking kind of disappears, so we may start to see some changes after the middle of the month of May. It's been very funny for the last number of months. We've been getting these 2-week flips. We had it in December, in January, in February, in March. It was quite strong where the blocking high formed for a few days. And now we saw it at the beginning of April to a lesser degree. Now we're seeing it again for the beginning of May. So it seems like it's 2 weeks on, 3 weeks off. And for some reason, it's been doing it neatly in a calendar time frame, right near the beginning of the month, flipping in the middle, flipping back at the beginning of the next month. And if you look at the upper air pattern in the west, overall, as we roll it back, yeah, there are weather systems coming in, but we don't have a persistent deep trough in the west. Everything there just moves along. So as the energy shifts to the east, you get these ridges that build up in the west. So that gives you some calm time, as is evident here through much of this week. And then another system eventually crashes that ridge, but nothing particularly strong. A little action down in the southwest with this part of the trough getting driven southward. And then here comes another system, but at least, again, there's some breaks in between with all the energy being focused in the east. Now, as far as the specific weathers for the west, let's go to the western U.S. and take a look at what it has to offer us in terms of precipitation and storminess. And as we roll it back from the last day to the first day, there's our plain storm moving away to the northeast. The kind of a weak system there that drops down weak as it drops down through the Rockies, but then strengthens when it gets down into the southern plains. Notice that most of the west toward the end of the week is dry, except for the northwest, with a little system coming in there. And then as we move through next weekend into next week, some light precipitation in the central Rockies, and the rest of the west looks fairly calm. Again, not a big surprise if you're going to start seeing, deep troughing in the east and more ridging in the west, that the weather in the west, particularly for California and it'll central and northern California, tends to calm down. We had a couple of model runs yesterday that wanted to bring rains down into the southwest where it's very, very dry. But if you look at this particular run, really doesn't happen down in that neck of the woods. So that could be a slight change. I think that's because yesterday the models were showing a pretty vigorous upper low dropping southward along the coast of California, and today's model runs are much weaker. So just to go back, here's our risk of severe weather today. Let's take a look just really fast for tomorrow and see what we have. We have a slight risk being indicated, and in fact, here we have it in the eastern part of the U.S. along the Appalachians. You have a slight risk of severe northern West Virginia, western Maryland, a good chunk of the western half of Pennsylvania, and through western New York State, with a larger area of marginal risk that extends from eastern Ohio down into northern Georgia, and then on up into eastern Pennsylvania, and a little bit further east into New York State. So this is the next cold front that's for Monday, and more particularly for the coastal areas, it's going to be Monday night. I'm guessing that the risk of severe weather is going to diminish for Monday night as this system moves eastward, but because the dynamics, the upper air dynamics seem to be a little weaker as we go through time. So look, it's a very interesting week we have ahead, a lot going on. Check out the latest web posts on meteorologistjoechaffee.com. Of course, you can check out all the New York City-based web posts from Angry Ben. My friend Ben Scott takes care of that on nycweathernow.com. And you can, of course, subscribe to my YouTube channel, which is absolutely free. Just hit the little subscribe button on the channel page, and you'll get notified every time new videos come up. And lastly, download my app and subscribe to my forecasts if you like for New York City, Long Island, Connecticut, New Jersey, Hudson Valley, and Eastern Pennsylvania. They're just 99 cents a month, and you'll get all the latest forecasts from me, my opinions, not computer-generated weather icons, along with the real-time satellites and radars. All right, folks, have a great Sunday. As I said, mine is already a great Sunday because I caught a fish today, and I'm very happy. So enjoy the rest of your day.